Hello and welcome to my first ever video. Today I'm going to build an SSTO in the spaceplane hangar, launch it from the runway, get it to orbit and land it right back on the runway again. As you can see, we're already in the spaceplane hangar building our SSTO. I'm adding as many fuel tanks with oxidizer and liquid fuel, plus some Rapier engines, to get as much Delta V as possible. For the Rapier engines to reach max efficiency, we need a lot of air intakes. For the wings, I opt to one big part instead of more small ones because my experience is that you get more drag if you have more small wing parts. Guys, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this because I've literally just been playing like a month. For the gears, I'm going to place them pretty far out because that opts for a lot of stability, which will be needed in the landing. I do some friction control on these and adjust the brakes, just so that my aircraft will not just start randomly swinging around on the runway when I'm trying to take off. I'm just adding a few more Rapier engines and fuel tanks to this because I felt that my thrust-to-weight ratio wasn't good enough because I like to have about 9,000 meters a second of delta V and a thrust-to-weight ratio of about 1.2. I'm naming this craft Gremlin I. I don't really know why, I just did. That was just a little test. I realized that I really need to auto-strut this because it was wobbling like hell. And then I also realized I didn't have any batteries or solar panels, so I added that as well for increased control. Here I add some batteries so that when we're on the far side of the Earth we still have electric charge. After that I add some SAS modules as this will be crucial to survive re-entry and not topple over. It's a little wobbly, but it's fine. This was really meant to be a test, so I was going to revert but then realized that I could just fly it from here. So I'm going to want to accelerate to about 300 meters per second before I start pointing my nose in about 20 to 30 degrees to get an optimal ascent angle for the trajectory I want to have. So here you can see me gaining speed, pitching a little down, and here I'm trying to raise my nose to about 20 to 30 degrees. Sometimes if you have more thrust to weight, I would recommend to go even steeper at closer to 45 degrees. Here I'm just watching out for my thrust to weight ratio compared to how high my apoapsis is, and watching out when my engines go into closed circuit. That's closed circuit right there. As you see, my thrust to weight ratio has jumped substantially, and I aim for my apoapsis around 70 to 75,000 meters above Kerbin's surface. Then I plot out my maneuver with a maneuver node, and yeah. This is my second ever SSTO. My first one did not go very well. It kind of crashed every time I tried to re-enter, but this one showed to be quite a lot better. Here I'm just checking how much electric charge I have left. Here I'm starting my burn, which will last around 20 seconds. So now that we have a circular orbit, I just let Jeb and Bill chill out for a little bit because yeah, they made it finally. And yeah. Here I'm just making a quick save so that I can go back and change my maneuver if I have overshot or undershot the approach to the KSC on re-entry. Here I'm just planning out my maneuver node, aiming for about 1.5 kilometers above the surface for my periapsis and burning a bit before the island airfield in my trajectory. As you can see here, the mark is in red, so that's just because I've shut my engines out, but I'll just turn them back on real soon when I get closer to the node. That's engines on. This node is pretty short, so it's not very important if I burn maybe 20 seconds early or 20 seconds late, because it's gonna have about the same outcome. You see, my periapsis is almost about 1.5 kilometers above the surface of Kerbin now. I check my electric charge before entering the atmosphere because it's pretty important to have that, to have your SAS powered. As you can see, the landing gears are tucked quite nicely into the body just to protect them from overheating on re-entry. Just to our right here, we can see the desert airfield down there. You can barely make out the runway, but it's there. Right before I enter the part of the atmosphere when it's actually starting to get thick, I tend to pitch my spaceplane up about 45 degrees. You can see the re-entry heat is starting to accumulate now around the wings and on the nose cone. Right here I'm just performing small boosts to lengthen my trajectory because I saw that it was braking pretty fast. I just time warp because this usually takes quite a long time. As you can see, my trajectory is falling pretty short of the KSC, so I'm performing, again, lots of small boosts to get us on a more correct course. Just checking the electric charge again, and you can see the heat underneath. Just have to keep an eye out for those temperature gauges, because if they get way too high, you will explode, basically, and Jeb and Bill will die. And we don't want that, do we? Here I'm pitching a little bit to the left to correct my course onto the KSC, but it's not really working, so I do some small boosts instead. Here you can see the temperature is going down pretty much, and we're low enough in the atmosphere to ignite our Rapier engines in air breathing mode. I try to follow prograde to keep my course steady, but that ends up glitching the plane a little as it keeps fighting the wind and itself, and the SCS modules seem to be a little bit too strong here. So therefore I try to recover it with my engines, but then realized I was on prograde, not stability assist. So there, I changed that, and it evens out perfectly. Here I try to glide in as smoothly as possible, and yeah, I check my trajectory pretty often just to check like how I'm doing and stuff. In the future, I would like to be able to go down to the runway without igniting my engines and giving thrust, because it's how the space shuttles did it, and I really find that a lot cooler than igniting my engines. Kind of feels like cheating. Here I'm just igniting my engines a little, just not to stall, and yeah, just not to kill Jebediah and Bill. I mean, that's kind of my mission over the whole thing here. Just doing those small engine burns to keep us on course and keep us from stalling. By the way, everything in this section of flying is sped up to 1.9 times speed, so it seems a little faster than it actually is. A little less burn so that we don't undershoot the runway. Then I cut throttle and toggle the brake action group so that we brake immediately after touchdown. I may have put the friction a little high on my wheels, but yeah, that's it. First try! Yeah. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video.